Crazy character journey for her and for all the other characters, and I absolutely wanted to dive.
What if the most dangerous scandal in Hollywood didn't happen on a stage or at a red carpet, but in the air? No paparazzi, no viral video, no TMZ alert. Just two people, whispering, and one woman who happened to hear them. It wasn't a screaming match. It wasn't a betrayal caught on camera. It was something far more dangerous. A moment overheard that was never meant to be heard, and a silent war that followed. Sydney Sweeney didn't leak anything. She didn't call the press. She didn't even tell her team what she heard. But somehow, everyone found out. And what happened next was so quiet, so insidious, that you'd miss it if you blinked. But if you look closer, the signs were everywhere. Roles disappeared. Interviews were rescheduled. The lead actress of a major Netflix film was erased from her own movie premiere, and in her place, a face that wasn't even in the movie. This is the story of how a private conversation about a picture-perfect Hollywood marriage spiraled into one of the most chilling PR takedowns in recent memory. Ryan Reynolds spoke, Sydney Sweeney listened, and the machine moved in. So, what did she hear? Why did Hollywood turn on her? And how did staying silent make her the biggest threat of all? It was supposed to be a victory lap. April 2025. Sydney Sweeney had just wrapped filming Glass Chapel, a genre-bending, black-and-white psychological romance thriller. Her co-star? Ryan Reynolds, the biggest name in Hollywood. The film had been Netflix's boldest gamble yet. No soundtrack, minimal dialogue, moody visuals, all designed to win awards, not just likes. And the reviews from the Paris panel? Glowing. The crowd had stood for them, literally. Standing ovation. Handshakes, champagne, flashbulbs. But 2 hours into the return flight, somewhere over the North Atlantic, that moment of glory curdled into something else, something colder. The atmosphere on studio jets is strange, sterile, artificial. The air is thin, the conversations half-whispered, but everything feels louder, tense, like every word matters. Sydney hadn't meant to overhear. She wasn't eavesdropping. She was just there, close enough to hear Ryan Reynolds, 2 rows ahead, speaking in hushed tones to one of his longtime producers. And what he said broke something open. "She's not a wife. She's a walking contract." The producer chuckled, not nervously, comfortably. "You married the brand." Ryan leaned back, the words slow, bitter. "You don't know what it's like. The image, the control, the fake perfect. You spend your life making people fall in love with a version of you that she approved. And she's Blake Lively. Of course she wins. That's the rule." Sydney didn't move, didn't flinch, because this wasn't a joke. This wasn't a funny celebrity moment. This was a man unraveling, quietly, about the woman the world believed he adored. And that's what made it dangerous. She never mentioned the flight, not to her publicist, not to her agent, not to the studio. But something changed the moment they touched down. Something imperceptible, but real. The calls slowed. The offers paused. The silence started building. Because someone knew what she'd heard. This wasn't a scandal. There were no headlines. But in Hollywood, you don't need to be screamed at to be exiled. All it takes is a whisper. And in Sydney's case, she didn't whisper anything. She just heard it. Sydney Sweeney didn't say a word. But Hollywood heard her silence loud and clear. The shift was immediate and unnerving. Not loud, not public, but unmistakable. Her team noticed it first. A stylist she'd worked with for 3 campaigns suddenly booked out. A Dior shoot postponed without a new date. A follow-up role in an Apple TV series already signed disappeared from the calendar overnight. At first, her agent thought it was a scheduling shuffle. Maybe budget, maybe network changes. But then Sydney got a call that changed everything. A director she trusted, someone she'd worked with years ago. No PR spin, no management lingo. "Hey, just wanted you to hear this from me." He had been in a casting shortlist meeting for a new limited series. When her name came up, silence. And then, "There's a situation." A conflict flag. Sydney froze. What does that mean? Unofficial, but personal. You're flagged as high discretion risk. Something about off-camera conduct. Not legal, just sensitive. That's when it hit her. This wasn't about scheduling. This wasn't about talent. This was about the flight. Someone knew she heard Ryan, and someone powerful wanted her quietly pushed out, without ever saying why. There were no cease and desist letters, no statements, no incident report. Just a shadow that followed her name into every casting conversation. Meetings stopped happening. DM threads went cold. A former co-star, once close, left her on red for 2 weeks. There were no fights, no drama, just absence. And then, a low-level casting assistant, someone who used to DM Sydney back when she was still auditioning on her bedroom floor, invited her to brunch. Not a meeting, not a setup, just brunch. "You pissed someone off," they said, almost whispering. "Someone big. They think you leaked something from a flight." That was it. That was all Sydney needed to know. This wasn't just a PR issue. It was a chess move, and she was the piece getting knocked off the board before anyone realized the game had started. The premiere for Glass Chapel was set for April 19th. It was supposed to be Sydney's moment. Her team had styled the look: custom archival couture, metallic fabric with structured shoulders, old Hollywood glam with Gen Z edge. Her name was printed front and center on the press list. She was told she'd be walking alongside Ryan. Full coverage, name on the marquee, the works. But when the studio car arrived to take her to the event, something was wrong. Inside the envelope wasn't a premiere badge. It was a guest wristband, private access only. No red carpet, no press zone, no photos. They blamed it on logistics. Ryan's arrival time shifted. "We're focusing on solo coverage. We just don't want too many group frames for press flow." But Sydney wasn't naive. This wasn't a reshuffle. It was a demotion, a deletion. So she made a decision. She didn't go. The photos dropped within the hour. Ryan, alone, smiling, owning the moment. No mention of Sydney, not in the captions, not in the blurbs, not in the credits. One assistant posted a now-deleted story. "Imagine spending 4 hours on a look no one will see." I'd cry. Sydney didn't cry. She stayed home, alone, uninvited from a film she starred in. And while the red carpet rolled on, something even more surreal happened. A leaked guest list surfaced online. Sydney's name wasn't misspelled. It wasn't misplaced. It was just gone. And in her place, a face that hadn't even worked on the movie. Blake Lively, the caption on her post the next morning: "Proud of this man, always telling stories that matter." No mention of Glass Chapel, no tag, no Sydney, but to those watching closely, it was a message. And it was only the beginning. 4 faces greeted her on the screen. Her agent, a legal representative, someone from Netflix, and a stranger, a woman, polished, cool, quietly powerful. She introduced herself as part of a third-party PR and crisis management firm. Not Sydney's rep, not Netflix's either, just present. And then they got to the point. "This is a brief to protect everyone involved," the legal rep said. "The studio respects your contribution. We're simply moving forward with a different structure." The offer was clean, cold, a one-time payout, a creative contribution credit, no name on press releases, no more appearances, and most importantly, a mutual non-disparagement agreement, 18 months of silence. She stared at the document, then looked up. One question: did Blake send this? The PR woman gave a practiced smile. "This just ensures everyone walks away intact." That word again. Intact. Sydney didn't scream, didn't argue, didn't beg. She just said, "I'm not signing it," and closed the laptop. 2 hours later, her team received official notice from the network. Sydney's name had been removed from all Glass Chapel marketing. No byline, no pull quotes, no cast billing. She was, officially and completely, erased. Then someone leaked her refusal. A gossip account posted, "Heard a certain actress declined a peace clause this week. Not a great look when all you had to do was sign and smile." The replies? Brutal. "Ego much? Can't handle Hollywood pressure? Ryan and Blake are the moment. Who even is she? LOL." It was deleted in 10 minutes, but not before someone screenshotted it. The campaign had stopped being quiet. Now it was getting loud. She didn't post. She didn't tweet. She didn't defend herself. But someone saw her. A blurry photo, no makeup, sunglasses, sitting across from one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood. Reese Witherspoon? It hit Reddit in 4 minutes, Twitter in 10, And then it exploded because people remembered Reese's own press war with Blake, her ability to survive the studio system with grace and bite. And now, she was sitting with Blake's newest casualty. Within 24 hours, 3 separate rumor accounts confirmed the same whisper. Reese was developing a limited series. Quiet, female-led, indie tone, Apple TV+. And Sydney? She was in early talks. The internet remembered her too. A hashtag began surfacing. Number sign? She didn't sign. It went viral. 50,000 retweets in 12 hours, 100K likes on TikTok. Fans dug up interviews, preview articles where her name had been in the headline, but later pulled. Zendaya answered without saying a name. I think if you're scared of a woman's silence, it's because you know what she could say. Everyone knew who she meant, and so did Blake's team. Some people chase truth, others sell it. It was vague, passive-aggressive, and honestly, kind of tired, because by then, the damage was done. Sydney didn't sign. And that silence, it was starting to sound a lot like power. Blake Lively had built an empire on control. Her brand, untouchable, her marriage, worshipped, her power, PR perfection, until it wasn't. Because this time, the machine she'd built couldn't keep up with the silence. She tried the usual move, reclaim the narrative. A carefully orchestrated interview was scheduled for April 30th. The plan? Simple. Blake Lively on motherhood, her career, and learning to let go. The same legacy journalist who helped rebuild Gwyneth Paltrow after the Goop backlash had already written the intro. The hair trial was done, outfit selected, lighting locked in. The studio car showed up, but Blake didn't. No call, no apology, no public statement, just a single message from her rep. We're choosing to move forward in silence. But it wasn't silence. It was collapse. What Blake didn't know was that the journalist already had the backstory. And when the interview got pulled, the editor made a decision. Publish anyway. The piece didn't say her name. It didn't need to. Every paragraph was a mirror. And for the first time in her career, Blake Lively had no comeback. Ryan Reynolds wasn't doing much better. One fan account tagged him under a viral meme. "Damn Ryan, where you at?" He never replied, but Blake did. She liked the comment. It said everything. She wasn't going to say Sydney's name, but she wanted people to know who won. Until she didn't. PR giant quietly splits from Blake Lively after creative differences. That same day, 2 back-end investors pulled funding from Ryan's next film. No announcement, just a restructured release timeline. A delay. Officially, it had nothing to do with Glass Chapel. But in Hollywood, timing is the headline. Sydney wasn't tweeting, she wasn't giving interviews, she wasn't even posting stories. But she was working, on set, off the grid, in silence. The project? Untitled. The producers? Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon. The premise? A woman rebuilding her life after surviving an invisible war. No metaphor needed. Sydney didn't need to clear her name. She just needed to keep showing up. Just found out the girl who got blacklisted didn't even speak. She just listened, and they still panicked. The last line hit hardest. The scariest thing about Sydney Sweeney isn't her silence, it's what she saw and didn't say yet. The industry wasn't screaming, but it was listening. Blake's team tried one last time. A quote card, black serif text over a white square. You cannot control what others believe, only your peace. It got 88,000 likes. But the top comment? She didn't sign, and under it, and she still won. By April 29th, Glass Chapel had quietly slipped out of Netflix's top 10. No second wave, no late-night buzz, no fan edits, except the ones about Sydney's disappearance. Netflix marketing was stalling. Viewership in key territories, where Sydney tested strongest, began to drop. Then came the call, not to Sydney, to Ryan Reynolds. On the other end of the line, the head of PR at the distribution studio. We're getting partner pushback. Press interest is dipping. People are asking, why isn't the female lead on the promo circuit? There's a perception issue. It's becoming sticky. Ryan stayed quiet for a moment, then finally muttered, "This wasn't my play." The exec didn't miss a beat. Then maybe you should have kept your mouth shut on that flight. And that's when it hit him. His words, the ones he never expected anyone to hear, were now controlling the headlines and destroying the metrics. The transcript was leaked by a low-level assistant, just a few lines, but enough. This wasn't my play. We're seeing the metrics dip. You should have stayed quiet. Ryan got shook by silence. I'm living. Not the PR queen getting dethroned by someone who didn't even tweet. Sydney's ghosting the industry and winning. For the first time in his career, Ryan Reynolds wasn't the charming lead. He was the cautionary tale. And Blake? She'd built an empire on aesthetics, carefully constructed perfection, domestic bliss, power couple branding, timeless appeal. But all of that rested on one unspoken rule: never lose control of the story. And for the first time, she did. Because she couldn't post her way out of this. She couldn't quote card her way back. Not when the girl who refused to sign said nothing, and still took the spotlight. In the end, there were no lawsuits, no public statements, no teary confessions, no DM leaks, no red carpet meltdowns, no exposés in Variety. Just one woman who didn't show up. And the entire industry noticed. Sydney Sweeney didn't win with a headline. She didn't win with a redemption tour. She didn't even win with a PR team. She won by doing nothing, by listening, by refusing, by not signing. And when the dust settled, Ryan's next film was quietly shelved. No press release, just gone. Blake's brand campaign went cold, no reposts, no partner activations. Her longtime PR agency ended their contract with a single sentence: creative differences. And Sydney, she showed up to work, not in couture, not in paparazzi shots, in a quiet indie project produced by Nicole Kidman, backed by Reese, shot in silence. The kind of silence that makes Hollywood shake. Sometimes stillness isn't surrender, it's strategy. If this story stopped you in your tracks, share it. Sydney Sweeney didn't have a press team behind her. She had receipts, she had silence, and she had you. Subscribe for more stories the studios don't want told. And remember, the most powerful thing a woman can do in Hollywood is stay quiet long enough for everyone else to fall.